It does. And we're live.
Hello, everyone. We are just talking hair, things like that, trying to look our best for everyone here. Welcome if you're joining us. I am Coach Morgan. This is Coach Liz. I think are you this way to me or are you that way? You're one of the ways. You're this. Oh, so you're that way. Okay, no, there we go. And we are two of the coaches here at the Run Experience. And we're going to be talking all about obstacle course racing strategy, the mental aspect, physical aspect, and just kind of our experience with obstacle course racing. But before we do that, I feel like I want to go like a little background, like why you should actually take our advice, because if you don't know us as coaches here on the channel, I guess Liz will go first. I'm already talking, continue talking here. So Coach Morgan here. I've been a runner since dating here. We'll just say almost 15 to 16 years. I've been competitively running. I've run every distance from the 50-meter dash to the 100-miler. And for obstacle course racing, I really just kind of started the past 2 years of going into my second season in obstacle course racing, but I have a really wide knowledge base and coaching background in strength training, in injury prevention, and just all around like being a more of a hybrid athlete, which obstacle course racing really leads to. A lot of work in the CrossFit realm, so not just like strength training body weight, but a lot of heavier things as well, which those two worlds combined I thought would be really good for me to be turning into this OCR world. So Liz, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my background is I have raced like actually from the 5K up to 50-kilometer ultramarathon. Although depending on who you ask, that may or may not really be considered an ultra, which I do.
I consider an ultra, so I feel like you're good.
Yeah. So yeah, from 5K up to the 50K. I was not involved in youth running at all. I did run in high school, but it was just for fitness and for fun, and nothing competitive until I actually got into my 20s. And from there, I got into strength training, which I really loved the gym. I was, I would say, working out strength wise just as much as I was running at that point as well. And then eventually found my first race, which was a 10K. And fell in love with it from there. And the half marathon being probably my favorite distance. But I've done, like I said, all the way. The marathon, fun fact, my first marathon was, and still only marathon, has just only been a trail race. I have never actually run a marathon on the road. It was
you don't know what you're missing, or maybe maybe that's why you haven't done it. You're like, no, actually I do know what I'm missing, and I really never.
And I kind of don't want to do. I was just with the TRE doing a goal coaching call with someone, and it was like the same idea. I was like, maybe it's I don't feel like doing that on the road. I had a lot of fun doing the trail version. So yeah. And yeah, now I find myself after finding TRE, getting back into strength training after a bout of injuries. I found TRE, got back into strength training, found mobility, found an actual use for my foam roller. And
it doesn't just like collect dust and you shake it off every once in a while?
Exactly. It's like, oh, it has a purpose.
Yeah.
And so eventually I feel like it was a natural transition to find obstacle course racing because I love the trails. I loved strength training. And then it came to the point where it was like, oh, well, I think I just need to shift my focus in strength training just a little bit so that it's more geared towards obstacles, the upper body stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What year was that you did your first OCR?
So technical first OCR ever was 2011. I did the
Cool.
Warrior Dash and was like, what the hell is this? I'm running through mud. I can barely move. I think I looked at my watch and I was like doing 12-minute miles and just like not getting anywhere. I felt like I wasn't moving.
Yeah.
The obstacles weren't bad at Warrior Dash. I like got them all. It was fine, but it was like, what the hell am I running? And I think their idea of fun was that to get to the finish, you had to slide down this giant hill on your butt and then like land in a mud pit. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? So yeah, that's 2011, but then I didn't do another one until 2015.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So as I said, yeah, mine were just like the past 2 years, but I feel like everything in my life was leading up to me doing OCR races because I come from the track. I road runner, born and bred. I was a 400-meter hurdler and I pole vaulted. And those were like my introduction to running. And I actually hated cross country, but I did it because I was actually a soccer player. And I was like, I'm going to use like cross country as just like training or track as training. And then my coach was like, no, you have to do cross country because we do cross country in the fall here on the East Coast and soccer at the same time. So when I moved to San Francisco in 2017, I had like the only trail running I had done was like cross country stuff. And I lived in upstate New York. So like the cross country trails were like, kind of in the back of the school and it was very trail oriented, but like we didn't call it trail running. It was cross country. So I got to San Francisco, started getting into trail running, which actually helped my marathon training. A little tip to everybody. Trail running can actually help you. And I know we all are like, do both, but that's another topic for another, oops, my microphone almost tried to run away. That's another topic for another day. And when I was younger, I have actually pictures of me in cross country and I will share them if everyone would like me to. There's a classic picture of me and my two best friends at a cross country race, post cross country race. And it was this like little hill and it was pouring rain the entire race. So this little downhill was just all mud and I'm going face first. There's just a picture. Me and my other friend are going face first down this hill in mud and other friends just like sitting there with their hands back, just like you could just literally slide down into it. That and I had always been interested in rock climbing and that aspect of things. And it's a kind of a weird sport to get into solo unless you kind of have like a buddy system there. It's kind of, not a super thing to pick up. And then when I was much, much younger, this is a fun fact about me. We'll do Fun Fact Wednesday. I actually used to race motocross. So the dirt bikes. I don't have anything dirt bike oriented in here at the moment. And my dad always said, and if he's listening, he'll quote me on this, that I always did my best in the muddier races because I knew how to like navigate through the mud, and not that all OCR races are mud, but I loved being in the mud and I loved those races and they were so much fun. So funny enough, in 2020, as some of you know on this channel, and some of you don't, I met my husband, and what does he do? Our first date, we go rock climbing together. I'm like, this is so much fun. Great. Okay, well, what are his hobbies? Well, he races on the elite team for Spartan, which is a brand, if you guys, most of you probably know, but OCR is obstacle course racing. That's just like a broad over term. OCR also does have its own like owned races that they're branded called OCR, but Spartan is their own branded, right? Like we have a couple comments in here, like Warrior Dash is one. Is it Battle Frog? Tough Mudder is probably another big name.
Frog, another one. There are so many, and local ones now too that you'll find.
But so he was racing on the elite team for there, and I was like, Oh, once again, it's kind of a sport that like I feel like you sometimes need like a little like help getting into it, right? It's not like running where just like kind of a lot of people probably around you do it. You kind of have to find those extra crazy people who are also doing the obstacle course races. So yeah, so he's on the elite team and kind of was able to help coach me through a few things and teach me about the obstacles. And I used my background in training and coaching with his knowledge and having done races for over 10 years, and it's cultivated me just being able to crush some races the past 2 years. So I'm still newbie to it a little bit. I know Liz has been doing it a lot longer. So I feel like we kind of are the perfect team here, bringing all of our background and knowledge together to help you guys out today. Yeah. So if you have any questions or you are just joining us, please leave any comments in the comments section. And we're going to try to answer as many as we can today and talk a little bit about our racing and our training. But we are also doing a video, the two of us, on like a week of training, what a week of training looks like for obstacle course racing. So if we don't get to your questions today, we're going to try to get to them in that video as well. So be sure to drop anything in there in the comments. And yeah.
We've already got some people popping in. Hello, everybody. Hello, Dorothy, Pufferfish X, Jenny Quintero, Gaming Mascot, Cam Bader. All right. Hello. We have someone, it looks like it's Patrak, P.O. Kelly, says you're a legend, Morgan.
Oh, yes. He also wanted to know how important core strength is for this. And I mean, not just this in general, I would say, obstacle course racing. Yes, it's very important because you are using a lot of upper body swinging and like holding yourself like one arm type of things. And I do apologize. I have 2 puppies and there's squirrel season and they're just going to be barking. So if you can hear them, I do apologize. I'll try to move a little closer to my microphone here. But yeah, core strength is important not only for obstacle course racing, but just like any athletic endeavor. You are always using your core for stability, making sure that like I'm not hunching over, right? Doing that nice, good run form, but also, yes, in the obstacles as well. Because like I said, you're holding yourself, you're carrying heavier weights like the sandbags or the buckets, right? If I can't hold my core up and I'm just like hunching over, I am compressing everything like my lungs, so I can't get that deep breath in. So it's just going to be a lot harder.
Harder on your back too.
What's that?
Your core is not strong, it's going to be harder on your back, especially on those heavy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, and I will say, like, for core, I guess with my most recent experience at OCR World Championships, there's different obstacles that I had never seen before where they're low rigs where your feet can't touch the ground.
Yeah, you have to hang and kind of almost either be in that L position or like knees to chest while you're hanging. And that is a lot of core, a lot of hip flexor, lower core strength there. Yeah, because a lot of them. So for like most of like the Spartan obstacles, and every race has different obstacles. Like we talked about those different brands like Tough Mudder and Spartan and everything else. They all have their own different obstacles with different names. A lot of them are going to be similar, but Spartan really doesn't have any where you're low to the ground and you have to like pick up your legs to be to complete the obstacle. You're kind of up in the air and you can let your legs swing
especially
down.
For us at our height. Like,
yeah, which is not that bad, but for those, yeah, like for Grady, my husband, who's 6'2", he's got to like tuck and roll into those ones. It's a little bit harder. So core, a huge part of it. So this past year, we'll talk about our races a little bit and kind of what we had going on and how we kind of adapted our training. Liz, I know you have the most recent race. So if you want to kind of talk about what you've been up to, and if we have questions rolling in, we will we'll answer them right away.
Sure. Yeah. So my most recent race being obstacle course race world championship, which Morgan mentioned earlier, like it's its own brand. And it's usually held once a year. This last 2 years, it was in Stratton, Vermont. So you're literally on the Black Diamond trails, running up and down the mountain. So there was about For this race, there's about 4,000 feet of elevation gain over the course of a 15K, which is about 9.3 something miles. I just came off Killington, which was the Spartan race held there, which was distance was further. Elevation gain was much more. It's like 7,000 feet of gain there. So this course actually didn't feel so bad for me. However, the obstacles were the true test there. This was, I will say, like, it's I've been doing Spartan races for a long time, and the obstacles that I guess I've just gotten used to them, and I've also gotten used to the fact that you can just do a penalty if you fail the obstacle.
Yeah.
The difference in obstacle course race world championship world and pretty much all the other ones that you'll find, like those bigger names like Savage Race or Bone Frog, those require 100% obstacle completion for you to be considered as complete.
Like that you actually finished the race, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this wasn't my first rodeo in the world of 100% completion. But I was like hoping I could. Unfortunately, first of all, I had a conversation with my coach early on. We basically said like 3 good tries at an obstacle and let's try to keep forward movement, because this was my first experience at this particular race, and it was hard. These obstacles were a lot more different, fear-based, high up, things that I didn't realize I was afraid of, and very quickly realized, oh my God. So not that I don't have the abilities, the athletic abilities to get them done, but the fear, which we will go into after as well. That fear, that mental, the mindset of it can really hurt your performance. So I experienced like the first obstacle. I learned a lot of, essentially, technique is huge on these obstacles. Like trying to muscle your way through them isn't the best idea when you're trying to stay efficient and trying to save your energy for the rest of the race. In other words, where you could probably use your body's momentum to get from, say, one ring to another or another rig to another. I really learned that don't pull up every time. Like I had that first obstacle that ended up failing was because I just blew all my strength out trying to muscle my way up and to get to one of the rigs, which in this particular rig was 2 skulls. They were the rock climbing handholds, and get up to those because I was so afraid I was going to fall. So I didn't realize I was just wasting energy. So yeah, a couple things is like you learn that, oh my gosh, like move your body, keep the momentum, and actually your body will figure it out as you go. Yeah, so that was interesting. They called that obstacle Skull Valley. It was a lot of fun. But the rest of the race, I was feeling it in my upper body. Like, oh man, am I going to be able to do anything else? So,
Yeah, it's kind of like any other type of running where we, have people not go out too fast during a race, right? You don't want to burn yourself. You don't want to burn all your matches all at once, as they say. Similar things. There's a lot of different techniques that need to be practiced in order to reserve that energy, hold it back, but get you through as efficiently as you can and successfully. And kind of going off of what Liz said, if you don't know, so the OCRs and a lot of the other races, it is the mandatory, you have to complete the obstacle. If not, you can go ahead and finish the race, but you don't actually finish it. You don't get you didn't finish it, you DNF'd. You can go and run it, but you didn't finish it. In the Spartan races, there's 2 different options that they have that they deem. Some events for like the elites, or obstacles for the elites are mandatory completion. But for like if you're just starting out, the other waves, if you're starting in the back of the day, it's okay. Like they'll let you just kind of go on if everything seems a little too crazy, which is definitely nice because it's a lot less pressure. And if you want to just like go and test the obstacle out and see how you feel on it, and you're like, maybe not, it's no worries. But so if you do not complete the obstacle, and completion looks like there's usually a bell at the end of the obstacle or the top or whatever, you have to hit the bell with your hand. It's very specific in Spartan with your hand. You either have to do 30 burpees or you have a penalty loop, which is just normally short. It's like, I don't know, maybe 400 meters or something like that, depending. But at a race like Killington, which Liz was talking about, Killington Mountain up in Vermont, which is just a ski mountain. It's they have the ski slopes there. You essentially go downhill and then you have to come back up the hill. And when you're already running 7,000 feet of elevation gain in those 14 miles, it's a lot. And 30 burpees takes it out of you. And they have to be efficient for the elite racers. They do have you on camera and they will penalize you if you do not complete all of the burpees or if you do not complete them to the standard of what a burpee is supposed to be. So for a little background information there. So go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, it looks like we got, Pufferfish asked, did you do the Louisiana dash? I didn't. I did the Boston. They call it Boston. But it was really like in the boonies of Massachusetts. Yeah, I did not do Louisiana. I would love to, though. I can imagine that one's muddy. Let's see. Katie wrote, just ran my first half marathon on Sunday. Use your channel a lot to get ready. Really appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that. Congratulations on your half marathon. That's amazing. Half marathon, like I think I mentioned earlier, is like my favorite distance. And yeah, dude, the muddier, the funner. Let's see. Yeah, doing burpees. No, thank you. Yeah, well, if you join TRE, we make you do burpees. So that was something that, like, when I started getting more into obstacle course racing, I was like, if I could just like get burpee immunity, like burpees aren't a problem for me, I would be really happy. Again, this is the Spartan kind of race. So like if I failed the obstacle, no big deal. I'll do my 30 burpees and I'll be done with it. And I'll become more efficient at doing burpees, essentially. Like, so yeah, that transition to the 100% completion was kind of a shell shock for me.
Yeah, one of the things I did in training before like some of my first races, because I'm newer to it, and for me, I knew that the hanging obstacles were going to be my biggest obstacle. Those were going to be probably ones I wasn't going to be able to complete, just because I was new to the rock climbing world. Holding all of my weight in one arm was just newer to me, and trying to get that motion down. And especially going into 2020, not having like a lot of places to train for it. Jungle gyms were, the best thing that you could use. But one of the things that I've done is the Burpee Mile. So just like a beer mile, but it's like, worse. You do 25, or we did 30 burpees, I think 30 burpees, because that's like the Spartan thing was 30 burpees. And then you would run 400 meters, 30 burpees. Maybe we did 25. We'll just say 30. And, trying to run that mile as fast as you can. So just really getting you used to doing burpees and then having to run again. And so it was really great training, especially for like the shorter races, like the 5Ks and 10Ks and things like that. So if you are like nervous and you're just kind of starting out with the training and you don't really have any place to do the hanging obstacles and you're like a little afraid of them, but you still want to get something and it's a shorter race, that Burpee Mile is just super fun because it really tells you like, how long the burpees are going to take. So if you're trying to like have a time in your head of like how long it's going to take you to finish, you'll know, and then you'll know what it feels like to be doing burpees with like such a higher intensity activity and then going right into running. Because all of the obstacles, especially in Spartan, and that's the only type of OCR race that I have ever done. I've only done the Spartan races, not for any other reason, just for out of convenience, essentially. Yes, this is our co-host. This is Zoe. She will be monitoring all questions today. So I only have Spartan as my background, so really that's mostly of what I'll be talking about today. But some of those obstacles are not obstacles per se, right? Some of them are, there's just like a 6-foot hurdle, and you just kind of have to like plop over top of it. Some of them are the rolling mud, it's called. So it's just like it dives down, and then there's a little bit of water at the bottom, and you come up, and then there's a little bit of water at the bottom. You can complete that, right? You know what I mean? Like that's not anything. I think even they consider the fire jump. You always see those cool pictures, people jumping over the fire.
Yep.
That's an obstacle, right? So when they say that there's 21 obstacles in the, I think it's 21, we'll just say it's around 21 for like the 5K distance, the sprint. Some of those obstacles, it's not everything is going to be, I'm hanging and swinging, I'm, having to climb up a wall and all this other stuff. Some of them are not super crazy hard. So yeah.
Yeah. I would say, like, I think anything that slows you down from running, they consider an obstacle. And sometimes at the end of that muddy, rolling mud, you have to go under a wall that is under the water.
Yeah.
So that's called the dunk wall. But, like, I will say there was my first time doing that was a lot of fear. Like,
yeah,
you gotta do what?
you don't know how deep it is. You don't know like where the other side is. And I think that's the biggest thing for me was just being unaware. And what I probably should have done is start off with like maybe going in the age group, because just like any other event, you can kind of compete in other different, so they let you go in waves for Spartan, and they have the elite wave, which you have to qualify for, or like prove that you can kind of run speeds with them. And then they have the age group, and then they have just like the general population open waves. Because my husband Grady was doing the elite races, they're the first ones to go out. So I was like, well, I want to be the first ones to go out too, because otherwise I got to sit around and wait. So out of pure convenience, I was like, they accepted me in my qualifying times. So I was able to run with them. I probably should have started with the age group, or like even just the general population one, to like be able to test these obstacles, because you're coming up to these obstacles and I've never touched them before. So that was a huge thing for me. I could generally, for the most part, keep up on the running aspects. Most of them are going to be on the trails. Some are like in stadiums, like Fenway. We both Liz and I are doing Fenway in Boston. So you run up and down the stairs and through the dugout and onto the field and things like that. So they have a lot of versatility. In at least Spartan anyways, they have a lot of versatility in what type of race. So if you are a mountain runner, they have mountain races. If you are a flat road runner and you want to try these, they have flatter races. Yeah, there's going to be some kind of going up and down at some point, but it's definitely more geared towards that like fast 5K runner over the long distance trail runners at those types of events.
Yeah, for sure. We got another question in here from Mark Chavez. How long did it take you to train? I want to run a half. Well, that depends on what you're training for. And my answer for me would kind of go into answering Patrick's question there, like how many years experience do I have? So I mentioned the first ever OCR I did was 2011, but then 2015 was my next one. And I've been doing an OCR at least one per year since then. So some years I've done like 4 or 5 of them. And so I've been racing OCRs, like I would say like since 2015. So what's that? 7 years? 7 years now?
Gosh.
Yeah. It took a while to like feel confident enough to like join the age group, the more competitive wave. They had just came out with that in like 2016. So that was like my first experience. I decided, I'll graduate up from the open wave, and it kind of put some skin in the game where, they're going to make sure you're doing your burpees. They're going to make sure you're doing them right. They're going to make sure that if you don't hit the bell, you're going to do the burpees, even though you made it to the end of the day. And I know
I've been it before, like
you're like, Whiff. No, and you're already on the ground. And you can't just go start. So training for those, I got through a lot of my training using the Run Experience programs just to get myself up to the distances. Like if I wanted to do the Beast, I would be doing the half marathon program. But making sure I was getting on trails, making sure sticking to that hill work each week. And just experiencing some of those higher grade ones. I would say with the exception of 2020, I did a virtual one, but yeah, I've been doing one every year other than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it depends too. Like if you want to run a half marathon, we suggest that you've put in the work and you've got a good strength training base going on a couple times a week. And this is regardless if you're OCR or not. You should be doing strength training at least a couple times a week. Build a stronger body, better able to handle distances such as the half. Because even though the half is, some people be like, oh, that's not that bad, but it's still a distance to contend with. You have to get your body up to that. It's 13 miles. So,
yeah. And if this is a half marathon for an OCR event, and even if you've done a trail half marathon before, you have to remember that it is going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Some of the obstacles you can get through pretty quickly, but some of the obstacles just take a lot longer, like the sandbag carry and the bucket carry, and things like that, where you're literally carrying a sandbag on your back, for a half a mile. Some of them are, so that it takes time, and it takes a second to get out of that and get back to your running speed. So it kind of just depends on where you're at. If you already have a pretty good routine of strength training and running, you can really start to dial in some specific grip strength and hanging, swinging work and some of the heavier carries in, I would say, a 2-month-ish time frame. If this is couch to Spartan race, kind of depending on the distance, that can be a 3-month thing where, you're really focusing on getting a little bit stronger and being able to hold your own body weight, right? I think that's just so important for not just obstacle course racers, but just runners in general, being able to
fitness.
Yeah, it's super functional. Just being able to do a pull-up, hold your own body weight, is just really important thing. And it's just going to make you a better athlete in general, having that type of skill set as well. And yeah, super functional fitness as well, as we like to say.
It's funny, kind of a side note to that, the functional fitness world is I feel like obstacle course racing, it was the first real introduction. If you think about the main basis and primal, what it is to be a human being is that you're running through dirt, mud, obstacles everywhere. You have to pick things up that are very heavy. You have to move through these obstacles. If it doesn't get much more functional than that, just being a functional human being, you should be able to get through a race like that in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be pretty, but I feel like these are great tests for human beings to figure out, okay, if we were in the primal stages of what it was to be a human, we're cavemen, this is just something that everyone could do. So taking yourself and putting yourself out of your comfort zone, getting into these races, getting on the trails, doing those in general, I think just makes you a more functional human being. You're able to move your body through this sort of stuff. I'm not saying you have to go out and win races, but testing yourself and seeing, can I hold my body weight up? Can I carry heavy stuff and put it down and not get hurt?
And not get hurt. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I think that was the really neat thing of it. Now this functional fitness world, I think CrossFit was kind of that, maybe that introductory. Now you had the CrossFit Games and things, but now they've even come out with other things like DECA. DECA is another Spartan thing, and that is very much kind of like an indoor obstacle course race. No upper body carry, holding yourself, but you do have to carry heavy things. You have to row, you have to do the ski erg, you have to do an assault bike. So they've kind of taken what OCR can do for you and put it in a gym style. And just, again, it's they call these functional fitness, the High Rocks being like the big event. That's like that. That's a whole nother brand itself, but that is like the Super Bowl of functional fitness. So you are doing, the distances are a little bit longer as far as running. The stuff is heavier. And so it can be really a really fun world to kind of dive into. I think that's what happened to myself. Obstacle course racing kind of opened that up for me. And then I naturally found like DECA, and we can talk about what that is if anyone was interesting. But yeah, like when it's winter time and there are no races going on, you've got these events happening in gyms in the winter time. So you can now enjoy that and put something on the calendar and work towards a goal.
And one of the styles that both Liz and I have done actually don't have any running in between. Yep. It's just essentially do these 10 different workout stations as fast as you possibly can. Yeah, you have to run like the 2 steps to get to the next exercise, but that's it. And looking at like these OCR races, if you are interested in doing them, it's really a great introductory world into being a hybrid athlete, which is definitely a term I've used in the past, but I feel like is coming up a lot more. I've definitely been seeing it. And a hybrid athlete is what it sounds like. A hybrid is like multiple things, right? So I consider myself that. I know Liz considers herself a hybrid athlete because we don't just do one thing. Right? I am not just a runner. And I did a video about this where I started off by saying, I'm not a runner. And everyone's like, what? I'm like, well, I'm not just a runner, right? I run. I know my husband's watching this. I'm going to say that I climb, but I haven't been doing it a lot lately. So I'm really sorry, but I do. And, I'll kind of pick up any sport that seems fun, right? Cycling, swimming, I don't know, kayaking, whatever seems interesting. I've played soccer. I like to do other sports. That hybrid athlete lifestyle, I think is going to make the most well-rounded and strongest person in general. And that's not just me saying that, because if you look at the OCR world, kind of the 2 best athletes that we have seen are actually husband and wife, Lindsay Webster and Ryan Adkins. They are extremely well-rounded athletes. They mountain bike. They have done extremely well in the mountain biking world. They can trail run. They can hit it on the road. They do very well kind of under any circumstance, and it just makes you that much stronger and that like just tougher, and like understanding your body and know how it like gets affected under different circumstances and different types of pressure. And it's also a really great way to help prevent injuries, right? When you do the same compounding motion like running over and over and over again, especially if it's on the road, it's a really good recipe to end up with an injury, which is why at the Run Experience, we really push strength training, right? And I always sound I feel like I sound stupid every time I say this, but like strength training makes you stronger, like duh, right? Like that's exactly what it does. It makes you a stronger person, right? We push mobility, and what is not mobility, but like riding a bike, swimming, that's moving my body in different motion, right? Really big swings, right? When I'm on the bike, it's a huge cardio impact with low actual physical impact on your body, and just like the mental tenacity of like doing all these different things and not getting burned out with one specific sport, I think really makes just terrific athletes and just like overall functional humans in general. So if you are interested in, getting into this, you don't feel like that you can't also train for a 5K if that was your thing. You have to stop riding your bike or stop swimming. And I feel like that's the same going into any running event, because I feel like runners feel like they have to be just runners, which is why I really like being able to float into this world and then float back into marathon training and going back and forth between, whatever interests me at the time.
Same. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think what we try to stress at TRE is that you are an athlete. You're a runner, you're an athlete. And what does athlete mean? What is the definition of that? It's like anyone who can perform in a sport and, like she was mentioning, well-rounded. I have been I guess you'd call it jacket of all trades. So, I mean, growing up, I did play softball, and I found that like that was the main sport I stuck with only because like my friends were playing it. And, otherwise I probably would have played soccer too. But what I've realized, like, I found myself like when I first started training for races, and those typical training programs that you'd find online don't contain anything else other than what you're supposed to be doing as running. I got
Yeah.
very bored very fast. Like, not that I don't enjoy running. I love running. I've been doing it this long. It's probably the one thing I've stuck to and had the longest relationship with in my whole life. So, when it comes to that, I definitely love running. Uh, but like something it pushes me when I got into strength training, because now I enjoy lifting heavy. I like doing deadlifts. I like doing squats. I like seeing how heavy I can get things. I'm soon going to be working towards like 1 rep max and figuring out like where I stand there, and just see how strong I can get my body. And I've noticed like running feels good. I'm not in pain. I think for the most of the part, I just thought as a runner when I first started getting into it is that I'm supposed to be in pain all the time. You just grit it out, bite
Yeah.
your teeth, you grit your teeth and you get through it. But like that was during a small period of time when I wasn't doing any strength training. I was just running. And yeah, like I said, it was very boring. And I got into so many different programs. I have so many darn books like with different programs. And once I found obstacle course racing and like decided, okay, I want to do well on these obstacles. And I would say that was like 2019 was the official turnover for me where I was like, this is it. This is my life. I identify as an OCR racer kind of thing. And, like I said, minus the year of 2020 when things hit the fan. But, I just found myself just like excited to try new things. Morgan mentioned rock climbing. That was something I also got into. And luckily for me, my family, my husband, my daughter, they enjoy it too. So it's like a family thing. Maybe once or twice a month, we'll go to a rock climbing gym. It's like, so now I can hold myself up. I've got different grips. I've got like more, I would say my point to all this is confidence in other areas because of the strength I've built.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, like things I would not have tried. Like you probably would not have found me bouldering. I liked the top rope. For anyone who's not a rock climber, you've got different options. Like you can have a top rope where someone is holding that rope and belaying you and you will go up. But I just felt safer that way. But then eventually I felt strong enough to try bouldering, which is you've got nothing. It's just you and the rocks. Of course, you're at a gym. It's usually a mat to
You got a
protect
nice soft
you.
ground, at least if you're inside. Yeah.
So, but still, you're still scared. You're like, I don't want to fall. Like, I don't want to get hurt. I'm a runner. I'm not supposed to get hurt. I can't get hurt. I'm training for something, so, but yeah, it's, I think that's, one thing I could say, like I said before, is confidence. Your confidence is totally built. The more you get yourself outside of your comfort zone, that comfort zone will kill you. Move your body, try things out because your body actually will enjoy it. It was built for that, it was built for moving. So I feel like the more we realize as human beings that we're supposed to be moving our bodies, we're supposed to be challenging it, we're supposed to try this stuff. You're just going to find more joy in that. I think, it may not be joyous at first. I certainly can say that
There's
a few
always
times.
growing pains period there when you start trying out things. So I kind of want to talk about for any of you out there who are thinking about signing up for your first obstacle course race, what are some things to think about and kind of how we transitioned? And I feel like I had the transition. I feel like Liz's kind of was just like there all of the time doing this, and she's been there for a while. So I can kind of talk about how I transitioned, and like some things that I as a coach think about and as an athlete think about, and some things that I share as well too. So for me, once again, the first thing was like getting comfortable with those obstacles that I had never been on before. And when I said earlier that I went to like the jungle gyms, like, you know, the kids' playgrounds, that's actually a great way to get comfortable with it because it's a pretty safe environment there. Yeah, you might look a little silly, but it's okay. And just getting used to hanging and kind of like feeling your body and how it swings. Like if that's never a motion that you have done before, you've never tried pull-ups, you've never done anything like that, you haven't done a lot of weighted like overhead press and things like that where you have like a weight and that's like kind of pulling on that shoulder. Those are some kind of easier transitions to start with, is like literally just going to the jungle gym, working a lot with like overhead presses, where it's just easier weights, just kind of that feeling of being able to have some weight above your head. And then getting started on a pull-up routine. That's going to be super beneficial. And I'm not saying that you have to do full body weight pull-up right out the get-go. I still use the bands, like so you can like wrap it around the top and it hangs down and you kind of put your knees inside and it takes the weight off. And that's just an easy way to do it, like at home or at the gym. Sometimes they have those like the negative the pull-up machines where you can like add the weight onto it and you can just like practice pull-ups. I personally just like the bands because you get a little bit more free form and you're kind of like using your core a little bit more rather than like resting your knees on a stable surface. But yeah, using the bands to help you with that pull-up strength, because it's just it's going to make a really big difference there in your training. And like I said earlier, there is a lot of different types of races. Even just this year, there was a race that was at Killington that both Liz and I did that we talked about, super steep, super hilly race. Check that out before you do the race. Like, you know, maybe start with something that's a little bit more in your wheelhouse. There was one here, because we're both on the East Coast. We're both over here in New England. For us, there was one in New Hampshire, Loudon, New Hampshire, and it was near like the Speedway. That was definitely a race that was faster, that was flatter. There was definitely some hills in there. Spartan loves to just find like a random piece of woods and like kind of just like hack down some trees and like run through it. So a lot of speed and agility work, like those ladders, like where you're kind of moving that lateral side to side motion, especially if you're coming from a running background. Anytime I have people that are transitioning from the road to the trail, I always suggest agility work, that lateral movement, because it's not a motion that we're used to running in that straight forward plane. When we start to go side to side, that's when we have those, a lot of injuries can happen. Like, I don't want to say like twisting your ankle or, you know, ripping your ACL or things like that, but things like that can happen. So making sure that you are adding in those necessary additional strength training to be able to compete in this. And, you know, you just have to, it's a little bit of like humbling and humility that if you cannot complete the obstacle, or, you know, you're scared shitless, essentially. It was totally okay, because both Liz and I have been there before. It's just like, it's a humbling
Still
experience.
there sometimes.
Yeah, it's super fun. And I always say, no matter what race, I always say to respect the distance. Respect the distance and respect running. Sometimes running's going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. So making sure that you just, you know, kind of go into there with a super positive attitude and like, I'm just going to try it your first couple of times, right? And if you fail, you fail. That's okay. That is completely okay. You just have to be okay with that and learn from your mistakes and use every race as a little bit of a learning experience. Going uphill for a Spartan, Kyle says over here, I would go with power hiking. Works well to not burn out your legs. Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's answering Rod's question, which was need tips to pace on how to properly step on trail uphills, doing a Spartan Beast on October 22nd, been running flats, jog hiking on some local trails, calves just fire up to 5 to 6 miles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in these races, some of them, like the grades, like how steep it was up in the 30s, which is a very steep grade. Most treadmills do not go that steep.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of power hiking, and it's okay with power. You have to be okay with power hiking. But on our channel specifically, because I live in a pretty flat area, I actually created a whole video with a really great strength training routine on how to specifically train for hills when you don't have any hills to train on. So everyone's always, when they talk about hills, they talk about the uphill. Everyone's like, oh, like when you think of a hill, everyone's like, I need to do uphill training.
But you ever tried running downhill?
What goes up must come down, and downhills can be one of the hardest things because it is so much impact on your body. When you're going uphill, you actually are not putting a lot of impact on your body. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because you're trying to move against gravity and go uphill. But when you're coming downhill, you have that extra force, and you are landing with probably almost 5 times your body weight compared to a flat road, which is about 2 to 3 times your body weight. So it's a lot of impact on the quads. And I get this wrong every single time, Liz, you can help me here. The concentric and the eccentric.
Eccentric on the way down.
The downhill, yes. Mm-hmm. That like slow motion. So one of the great strength training things I use is that eccentric lowering. So I'll show you because I'm sitting on a chair. So right where I'm going to load up, and instead of doing like a step up where I kind of just like really basic, I'm going to step up, and then I'm going to slow and control down, land, and then powerful back up. I just scared my cat out of the room, and excuse me, I'm a little wobbly. I did just run a marathon a few days ago, so that was a little rough. But that slow contraction coming down where you are bracing, and then a powerful push off going up the hill or up on your chair or whatever you're using in that particular moment. Those are going to be some things, if it's a hillier race, that you definitely can add in, even if you don't have a lot of hills to train on. But honestly, all you need is like a little hill, one little hill to do some repeats on. And, you can get just as much elevation gain as going out for a long run in the mountains, right? Yeah. It's going to feel a little bit boring, but, sometimes we got to do what we got to do.
Well, I think too, October 22nd coming up in like 1-2 weeks. You've got like nothing new on race week, but like what Morgan was just demonstrating, like step ups. You could even do weighted step ups and then focusing on that, that eccentric movement on the way down. Those are things that can get you there, but you are very close.
Yeah.
So I would say the next few weeks, like if you can do that for 1 week, nothing crazy, early next week, get enough recovery time, that would probably be good. And I would address the calves and why they may be on fire while doing hills. Perhaps you may need a little extra mobility in your ankles. Maybe it's time to hit those calves with some foam rolling. And then maybe even address your hips. You could, when you're hill running, if you're actually running uphill, you're not using that hip extension as much as you would on, say, the flats, but, perhaps even looking into that, because like if you are going uphill, think of it, your foot is also in this position and your calves are part of that system that are getting you up that hill. So just kind of giving them a little extra love, foam rolling, doing some mobility, like some ankle stretching and some calf stretching, not, before, but after when you're already warmed up. I would definitely address that. October 22nd is going to come fast, man. I'm excited for you. Excited for you, Rod. That's if you want to let us know which Spartan Beast you're doing, we'd love to know.
And kind of what Liz said for a second there, like being warmed up. If you're going into hills cold, like you haven't been doing any warm up beforehand, my calves are on fire too. There's been plenty of times where, we drive to the mountains and hop right out of the car and just like it goes straight uphill, and I'm like, gah! Like, oh, I'm not 19 anymore. Like I have to make sure that just anything to get your calves warmed up and stretched out so they are not just like trying to expand so quickly going up those hills. Give them a nice, 10-minute warm up of some dynamic drills, get your body moving a little bit before you head into this. And talking about warm ups, super important for any type of running. Spartans in general, head to toe, because it is a full body workout, right? You're using everything here. So you want to make sure that it's warmed up. You don't want to go to a big heavy carry. Normally they're a little ways into the race. They're not like right in the beginning, but you don't want to go to a heavier carry and just like yank on it and have, hurt your back because your back wasn't warmed up in your core and you weren't bracing through there. And so, as Liz and I said earlier, we know this is live, and we do want to go into our training, and we want to get into a little bit more specifics and some actual workouts. I know I briefly showed you that, and I said that we had that hill strength workout, but one of my biggest weaknesses, as I've said, was the hanging and the swinging obstacles. So that's definitely something that I have personally been working on. And in the video that we are going to be putting out, I'm going to be showing a lot of those actual movements and exercises that you can be doing. And Liz is going to kind of show more on like the heavier carry side of things and some plyometric movements and getting into a little bit more of mobility with the lower half of the body as well too. So if you have any questions about that and you want to drop them down, we're probably going to try to sign off here in a little bit. But if you have any training specific questions around OCR, we'd love to hear them so that we can add them into the video. And if you have any other questions on there as well too. And I think, Liz, where we can kind of start to take this off is we kind of touched on it a little bit where we were talking about being scared of some of these obstacles is the mental side of obstacle course racing. A lot of races in general and the training takes a lot of mental tenacity because that's a puppy dog, sorry. Because, it's not just as being a runner. I've been a runner for such a long time that I feel like I can get to that point where I can zone out in a run, right? You can just like, blah. I know not everyone
don't remember the last 5 miles.
Yeah, not everyone is there, and I totally understand that, but it's definitely more of a sport where where that is something that comes into it. When you start to get to those technical races, it's not like that, right? Your training for it's a lot of mental work, and it does wear you down a lot. So working on that mental strength, which is, working on your fears and addressing them. And, for me, and I know Liz and I have talked about this, and she has talked about, some of the obstacles at OCR, and she's got a little journal there. Just as I said before, like being humble and being open to those fears that you have. Liz and I were literally talking just the other day because she had finished her race and we had both done Killington together and we both have Fenway coming up. So we're like, in the midst of it right now that I said to her, I was like, I don't think it's my strength that's holding me back from these like swinging obstacles. I look back at the videos and I'm literally just like holding on to like some of the monkey bars and I just drop. Not because I think that my strength was down, is because what I personally don't want to happen is when I go to reach for the next one that I'm going to slip. I never go to full exertion. Essentially, I like to drop on my own terms. Is what I want to fall on my own terms so that I can land how I want to land, because I know Liz has done it and I have done it too, where it is a like, oh shit kind of moment.
Horrible. Yeah.
I've fallen on my ass, on my back, and it's just like not a pleasant moment. So it's how can I continue to train around that and try to overcome those fears? Because, when I'm training in my little home gym that I have, I can just drop so easily. But it's like how I just need to learn to push myself that extra second just to hold on one more time and not put my feet on the ground and like give myself that like mental break essentially, because I know that I'm stronger than my physical strength is a lot stronger than my mental strength at obstacle course racing. And I feel confident that I've learned how to do that within marathon training, within the 100-mile distance, things like that. But I have yet to really learn and dive deep into that in that upper body strength and the holding on type thing. So that's something that always comes up when we're talking about obstacle course racing as well. This is the mental aspect of it. Like I said, just like any other event, mental comes in a lot in here. So if that is something you're like, you will have a little bit of fear behind it, that's okay.
Okay.
Like it's totally normal. Especially, practice makes kind of perfect. Practice is a little bit easier. So I'm hoping personally that the more that I can do it and the more that I can learn to push myself and find those boundaries physically, that my mind is going to, catch up with me and allow me to go a little bit further and hopefully be able to do better at these hanging and swinging obstacles.
Yeah, same. I think on that note, as we close today's session, is that, someone who's come from obstacle course racing pre-COVID and then obstacle course racing post-COVID, there's something to say at the mental side of things. I will say, like 2018, 2019, there wasn't a whole lot of fear in me when I was doing these obstacles. I would just kind of attack the obstacles. I would get it. If I fell, I fell. But like now it's a lot more mental thought before I get up. And I noticed that when I got back into it in 2021 after a whole year away from the obstacles. So, there's something to be said to the fact that something happened to all of us when COVID happened in 2020, so those fears, those things that maybe that were probably in the subconscious or in the back of our mind, something we didn't really always think about, are now kind of being put in our face, and obstacle course racing for me was one of those, like, all of a sudden in 2021, I was like so scared at some of these obstacles. It's a fear I've never experienced. Like, I was never afraid of heights before. Now, why am I afraid of heights? Like, why am I afraid of everything? So I think that's something to be said to that. And that's why I mentioned the journal earlier. It's like, just write this stuff down. And I think for me, my approach coming up is going to try to get on as much obstacles as possible during the off season, to just familiarize myself what it's like to feel like I'm up high, perhaps go to an OCR gym, of course, more rock climbing. But yeah, like it's totally normal. We're all there, And yeah, I think Kyle says here, there's so much to mental side when you do a Spartan race and the training leading up to the race. It is. And like, I think Joe DeSena talks about, he's the owner of Spartan. He talks about he wants to build more resilient humans. And the way you do that is, whether you're talking metaphorically obstacles in life or real actual obstacles, you've got to learn how to get through them. So yeah, I think I'll end it there. But yeah, like, totally okay to be afraid. Totally okay to like want to figure it out and like move through it and figure out maybe why. That's why I've started journaling, man. I usually do a journal, but not like this lately. I've been doing a lot of journaling because I'm like, why is this? Why am I so scared? Like, why? So yeah. I know, Pufferfish X. Thank you for mentioning that. They are not everywhere. The closest one for me is like an hour away. So
Yeah. And you kind of have to like I said, you have to be a little creative. CrossFit gyms are a great place when they have the specific ones, because generally they at least have the bars up high and you can kind of practice a little bit of swinging, and sometimes they have the rings and stuff like that. That's why I suggested playgrounds, because they have that stuff there. And that's so Liz and I, when we do our training, we are going to be showing you what we have created. Like, I'm going to be in my shed, in my little garage gym setup, showing you like all the things that you can do, because we know not everyone can get to a gym. And I think they even have like, I know they're geared towards kids more, but sometimes you have to like look for those things, like the little playgrounds, or like the gyms that do like all the ropes courses and things like that, so just be creative when you're doing this stuff, which is kind of like the fun of it, right? You get to like, feels like play, and that's what that should feel like. And I have Grady here. I texted him and I asked what his best advice is. Someone who has been running in the elite category for a very long time. First thing he said is learn to run when you're tired, which is what we talked about earlier with like doing that Burpee Mile situation, like obstacle run. You're going to be super tired. So it's a lot of higher intensity training, which is just something super fun. And it helps break up a lot of your training, especially if we're in that like slower, monotonous stuff. So adding in that higher intensity training, and to watch the videos of the events before you do them, right?
They're so good about posting.
Yeah, and you can definitely find videos of the specific course from the year before. A lot of people like who are just in the general waves will have like GoPros, and they go through everything. And I know a lot of the these specific brands are actually pretty good about like kind of showing their obstacles. And find the elites, watch how they go through them, but then also see if you can find videos of how everybody else goes through them too, because we can't all just like jump catapult ourselves and like grab the third ring and grab one more and be off. So Liz and I actually have from some of the Spartan races, not super long videos on each of the individual, but you can see us doing some of the obstacles. So if there are specific obstacles that you're like, help, please drop that in there, and we can also talk about that in the next upcoming video, which we're really excited to get out to you guys. So if you have any questions about it, please drop it in the comments, and we will try to address everything else in the upcoming video. And if not, maybe we'll see you guys out there for one of your first races. And we're excited. We might even do a little video around Fenway. We haven't quite talked about that. I literally signed up today. Yeah. There was one spot left, so I'm really sorry if somebody else was trying to get it. So we're both signed up for that. So if you are in the Boston area and you want to come
say hi,
yeah, we'll both be out there. But yeah, Liz, time. We'll talk to you guys later. So thank you so much for coming.
Up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.